Hey guys, I hope you're all well. I'm doing pretty well. I'd just like to give you a little update of how the project's going. The first thing is that you'll probably notice that the output hasn't been so high as at the start, and also the regularity hasn't been as even. Now that is a consequence of a few things that are going on. The first one is that for personal reasons, I've got to get a reasonable income fairly soon, and I've got to get a stable income. And so I'm devoting myself to paid work, which is not something I particularly want to do, but that is just the way that life goes sometimes. The other reason for that is that these things just take a lot longer than I ever imagined that they would take. This really is quite an undertaking. Yeah. And the third thing is that I actually want it to take longer than it is taking, which sounds rather strange. But for the first few videos, I found that I was recording these things, answering people's questions, and then afterwards I was thinking, oh, I could have answered that better, or they may have meant that question in a different way, and I didn't pick up on that. And so there was some regret coming out in that. I mean, it's not like a sense of failure or that this isn't a good thing to do. I think in some ways it's just an indication that I find the Dharma incredibly valuable and incredibly important, and I really just do want to present that as well as I possibly can. And one of the limitations of the medium is that I don't know what the question is based on. I don't know the inflection and the tone in which it's asked. I don't know the person who's asking it, and so I don't know their history or their situation. And of course, in a study group, you'd know all these things intuitively and straight off. And even if you didn't, you could actually say to the person, what do you mean by this? Why are you interested in that? What does this word mean? And because that isn't there, it actually requires a huge amount of attention to work out all the different things and all the different implications that could come from that question. In some ways, that's leading to increasingly longer and longer answers, because in a way I'm trying to answer about 6 or 7 different questions for each question. But I think that's just a consequence of the medium that just needs to be accepted. The disadvantage is that answers are answered poorly, or they're answered fully and they take a long time. But the advantage is that people all over the world can have access to some kind of Mitra study. And I think the pros are worth the cons still. But considering it takes about half a day to narrate and edit the study material, and it probably takes about 2 to 4 days of me thinking, not completely devoting myself to it, but having it in the background of my mind and taking notes in between my day, and then probably a full day of recording and editing for the questions and answers, sometimes up to 2 if I'm not completely dedicating myself to it. It's actually quite a thing to do, and I kind of feel like I would rather do this properly and slowly than put something out every week or every 2 weeks and have it something that I'm not happy with in the end. And so oddly enough, the fact that it takes so much time kind of inclines me to make it take a little bit extra time, a few more hours extra time, and have it a lot better, or at least as good as I can do. I hope that makes sense. Thank you very much to those people who've sent me donations. It really does make a big difference, actually. And thank you to everyone who's sent questions in. on a couple of weeks when there's been not that many questions, I've thought about just thinking up questions, but it really doesn't work unless someone's actually asking me. I don't really have any inclination to answer it. I've sort of got to imagine someone that I'm speaking to. Anyway, I'm broadly happy with how things are going, and I intend to carry on. I don't know how long it's going to carry on for. Might be a little bit longer than a year, or a lot longer than a year. But please keep the questions coming, and I do hope you're enjoying it. Thanks.